Are there any liberals in Victoria? Oh, thank you so much for being here tonight. But thank you also for everything you and our extraordinary team of candidates have done over the past weeks. You know, it is especially poignant for me to be here in Victoria to end this extraordinary campaign that featured so many challenges, but also so many great moments right across the country, conversations with people with the kind of future we're going to build. But to finish it here, my grandmother spent the last years of her life living near Brentwood Bay, and it was just, yeah. Actually, if you mention that you heard it from me, I'm sure my Aunt Betsy will give you a deal at Brentwood Bay Nurseries on lovely new plants. But for me, this island has always been an important part of my childhood. I remember some of my first times, my mom bringing me out to camp near Nanaimo, to camp over on Long Beach, to discover this incredible part of the world. I bring my family back here every single summer because you have such an incredible corner of the country, and you are so lucky, and I am so lucky to be here today. And what a better place to wrap up. I couldn't imagine a better place to wrap up this campaign than with all of you tonight as we choose forward. Merci. Merci, mes amis. You know, it's worth thinking about how we got here. In 2015, we made a choice as a country to pull together and pick a better government, a government that would invest in people, invest in communities, invest in families, invest in the future, and fight climate change. And that's exactly what we do. Canadians came together from coast to coast to coast and said enough to Stephen Harper's cuts, to his approach that lacked ambition for the country, that lacked vision for future generations. And we pulled together and we made a very different choice that has worked out for Canadians. Over the past 4 years, not only have we created more than 1 million new jobs, most of them full-time, and the lowest unemployment in 40 years. And that's great. And the economic growth that came with it is great. But the important part of that is we lifted 900,000 people out of poverty at the same time. Thank you so much, because you get it. You get that you can't just create economic growth through cutting, and if you can't create economic growth without giving opportunities to everyone to succeed, it doesn't count for anything. And that's what we've done over the past 4 years, but we know we're just getting started. But on top of investing in families in the future, we also stepped up in the fight against climate change. For the first time, we have a pan-Canadian framework to fight climate change that means the entire country is following BC's lead, and we have put a price on pollution right across the country. And we've done it through and over the objections of conservative politicians who haven't wanted to do anything in the fight against climate change. But that is the issue of this campaign. And for me, it all came to a head yesterday when I heard a story that one of our MPs passed along to us about a fellow in her riding who came up to her, a small business owner, who said, look, I've voted conservative my entire life. I'm a fiscal conservative. I don't hold much truck with the social conservative side of things, but on the fiscal conservatives, that's where I've been voting, conservative and progressive conservative all my life. But this election, I did something I've never done before. I actually turned my vote over to my daughter, who's 13 years old. And as I reflected on what this election means for her future, not just for the next 4 years, but for the next 40 years, he said, this election isn't about him. This election is about her, and that's why he's voting Liberal for the first time in his life. And I've heard it clearly from folks across the country. We need to do more in the fight against climate change, and I agree. We are going to do more because we need to keep stepping up, keep innovating, keep protecting our climate, keep protecting our environment, fighting climate change and growing the economy so there are good jobs for our kids, good jobs for the future as we transform our society to be net zero by 2050, and we are going to do it together. And we're going to do it by pulling together a strong, progressive government that will be able to push back effectively against Jason Kenney and Doug Ford and all those provincial premiers who don't want to do anything. And quite frankly, that's why it sort of boggles the mind that Andrew Scheer decided to make doing nothing on climate change the core of his approach in this election. Canadians across the country have been talking about how we need to continue to step up, how we need to do more, and they're choosing to pull us backwards. That makes no sense. Et c'est frustrant pour tout le monde à travers le pays qui voit à quel point c'est important qu'on avance, qu'on investisse. Et c'est pour ça qu'on a besoin d'un gouvernement progressiste qui va agir sur la lutte contre les changements climatiques. But of course, on top of not doing anything in the fight against climate change, Andrew Scheer decided to hide his platform for almost the entire length of the electoral campaign. He did release it, though, late on a Friday night of a long weekend, so maybe no one would notice that the only thing in there is $53 billion worth of cuts. That makes no sense. We have demonstrated over the past 4 years that the way to create the kind of economic growth that Stephen Harper couldn't see for 10 years, the way to lift hundreds of thousands of people out of poverty, the way to create opportunities for small businesses to engage successfully in the world is to invest in people, and that's exactly what we've done. And I know there are a number of parties out there alongside us who are committed to doing more on climate change and to investing in families, and that's a good thing. But right now, as we're facing the possibility of conservative cuts and nothing on climate change, we don't just need a strong progressive opposition, we need a strong progressive government to get it done. And that's why I'm counting on all of you. C'est pour ça que je compte sur vous. D'ici demain soir, nous allons travailler extrêmement fort pour accueillir nos amis, pour les encourager à aller voter. Because when you get down to this election, there's been a lot said, there's been a lot of attacks, there's been a lot going on in this election. And Andrew Scheer seems to want to make you think this election is about me. This election isn't about me. This election is about you. This election is about Canadians. This election is about our future and our kids' futures. And that's why tomorrow I need all of you to call your friends, to get out, to campaign with any one of these extraordinary candidates. Mobilize the vote. Make sure that liberals and progressives get out to vote and show that we are a country ambitious and looking towards the future and ready tomorrow night to choose forward. Merci tout le monde. Merci.